I'm doing Facebook Live right now. What's going on inside? What did Chief Barber say?
Well, Chief Barber he's trying to find the most peaceful solution possible.
Okay.
He wants to make sure that everybody that's involved in this is, make sure we're taken care of. He's trying to get in contact with the mayor and the governor and trying to make sure that we're able to go back to work.
Yeah.
What he's asking of us is he wants us to be able to take the antibody test.
Okay.
Just like he's done for all of his first responders, all of the police, the fire department, all those first responders have taken the antibody test and he's allowed them to go back to work.
Okay.
We are not opposed to that. I am 100% fine with taking an antibody test.
Yep.
But
We got a conversation we talk about.
hang on, let me finish just telling them what they just asked me. I'm not opposed to taking an antibody test.
Okay.
But the problem with that is I need the governor to allow me to work while they process the antibody test.
Okay. How long will that take, the antibody? We don't know that.
I don't see where this is going to be a peaceful solution for me. I am the problem here because I'm the one that's at risk of losing my business. I'm the only one. Mike, Justin, every other barber in the shop, they are not responsible for anything that's happening here. It is me, 100% me, entirely me, who is wanting to pretty much balk at what's happening because I have worked my entire life to build what I have, and I'm at risk of losing it. I don't have any money left, and you're asking me to wait. April 17th was the day that we were supposed to open back up. Came and went. May 1st, she announced yesterday at her press conference that we might not open up because this is the peak of this disease. I can't wait another 14 days after the peak. This is affecting my business before she ever shut it down. The quarantine was not the beginning of my loss. The 2 to 3 weeks prior to that, people were scared. They weren't getting haircuts. I'm out of money. I have to come back to work. And I'm not the only one. I know there are a ton, I'm a part of the majority who is about to lose their lives, their livelihood. And we're not asking for anything but just to let me go back to work. I don't want this handout. I don't want charity from somebody. I've worked since I was 15. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life, plenty that I regret. But the one thing that I will not regret is earning my way in life. And that's all I'm trying to do.
Mike, Joel, if this is a question I haven't asked, because it's probably been on your mind too. If somebody came in here and contracted the disease, how would you deal with this person?
Personally, if somebody came in here and contracted that disease, I would be astounded. Our sanitation practices we do not have contact with the customers. When they come in, we don't shake hands. They sit down in a chair that's just been freshly sanitized. They put a fresh cape on. They have neck strips covering themselves. I have a mask on. I wear gloves. The only thing that touches them are my clippers and my combs and my shears. When it's done, they pay. I don't touch it. I don't exchange anything back. And they can have permits and they walk out. We have went through every. It's not a run-of-the-mill practice. I've made sure that everybody's safe when they come in my shop. It's not that they don't know the risks. Anybody that's walked in the door knows that this disease is still a disease. COVID-19 still exists. They're here because, one, they need me. Two, because they want to support us. It's not a matter of whether or not they fear for themselves getting sick anymore. It's they want to go back to a sense of normality. We've passed the point of no return, I think.
What does that mean?
I am putting myself between a rock and a hard place. I have so much respect for the police. Chief Barber is one of the most amazing men I've ever met, and I've loved him since the day he was announced as the chief. And I am putting him in the most difficult position of his, well, not his career, that's silly to think about, but I'm putting him in a very hard spot because he doesn't want to do this. We have a good relationship. I wouldn't say we're friends, but he knows that I don't want to do this, but I don't have a choice. At this point, they're trying to enforce a law that was never a law. I have a certain amount of constitutional rights that are mine, given to me by my birth as an American. There's civil liberties that you can't take away, and one of them is my ability to work. As long as I'm practicing what I need to practice, this shouldn't be a problem. And I feel like every other barbershop should feel the same way. Every other salon, as long as you maintain the practical health code, the ordinance that has been presented to you. Just,
can you do that as I look at the clinical surrounding the C-block? Other hospitals and nurses who are forgetting the disease, who are sharing the disease, and all they go in the clinical setting. And I know you're trying to be as clinical as you can.
I cannot 100% guarantee that it's not going to happen. No, but neither can a hospital, neither can anybody else that has ever had anything to do with COVID-19 cannot tell you that this is not a 100% guarantee you're not going to catch this disease. It's not going to happen. But I can make sure that you are the safest you're going to be while I do what I do. I can ensure that what I do is enough to make you feel comfortable, and my customers feel the same way. They feel that what I've done is enough to protect them, and it is very difficult to be put in a situation where I feel like I'm not an outlaw. It's not what I'm about. I legitimately just want to go back to work.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joel.
Thank you, Joel.
He's Joel.
Let me just start out by saying that I have the utmost respect for the guys that are working here in the situation that they're in. And they're not unique in that we have a lot of people that are very worried about paying their bills, and they're very much indeed need of going back to work. And so we understand that. So my presence here today is to work with the barbershop and work with everybody to see how we can do a phased approach to reopen our businesses, get people back to work. And I think one of the problems that we're seeing right now is that there's been a lot of promises by the government about stimulus and about small business loans, but not everybody has access to that, not everybody's receiving that. So we do have a situation where a lot of people are in very desperate situations. And we, as a government, have got to learn to work with them on how to resolve this issue and get people back to work. And I think we've come up with that solution, that we are going to work together to find a way forward so that we can begin the phased approach of getting our service industry back to work. So.
They weren't being rebellious. They just wanted to do their job. They had clients that wanted to get that. They got the cease and desist order and the fine. How's all that playing out? Is it a law? Is it not a law? What did they? What happened?
What you have is the governor. When the governor and the state health officer brought out these rules and they declared the state of emergency, it made the rules a misdemeanor offense if you violate them. So it did make it criminal. Otherwise, what would not be criminal? So what we're seeing today is that we are now criminalizing situations that otherwise would not have been, and we have law-abiding citizens that are now put in a situation to where they could be charged, but we're certainly trying to avoid that. We are trying to comply with the governor's orders, but at the same time work with otherwise law-abiding citizens and making sure that they're taken care of.
What solutions did you come up with today?
We want to be able to do a couple of things. We want to come up with a good plan that we can give the governor on how do we put this particular industry is in direct physical contact with the public. And so what we propose is to treat them just like we do first responders who, again, are in direct physical contact with the public. So maybe some screening, anybody testing, good rules, clean hygiene, making sure. I noticed when I came in here, you can see the spacing of the chairs. They're wiping everything down, everything's by appointment. They have a very good system to make sure they not only protect themselves, but they protect the public. And so I think there's a way forward. I think that we can get America back to work, but we have to do so deliberately and working together and not at odds with each other.
Which still leaves us here at this situation of where is the shop open or is it closed?
The shop has agreed to close down and work with us on making sure we have a good phased approach that everybody can agree on, and with pressure from the mayors to get the governor to accept these types of protocols, that we can get these guys. Again, the idea here being we don't ever want to be put in a situation to where we're criminalizing otherwise law-abiding citizens. And so that's the situation we're getting into, and I think you're starting to see that happening.
Do you now see Mike's Barbershop in Mobile as possibly being a example of how you're hoping it can be an example of how you can coexist with customers and workers in this environment?
I see Mike's Barbershop being the voice of America right now, is what I see. But I also see Mike's Barbershop as the perfect test to where government can work with the industries to get them back open. And I think that's something that we should pay very much attention to. We should take it very seriously. We are impacting the lives of people. We're impacting families. And so we've got to be very thoughtful, very meticulous in the way we approach it. But I think government should be working with the industries and not against them.
How long could this take, considering that these people are really on their last legs financially?
Let me tell you, it couldn't happen soon. If I could get the governor on the phone to allow us to proceed, we would proceed right now. That is not our call. It's not the mayor's call. It's something that's got to come out of Montgomery and certainly out of Washington too. But we have got to get the voices heard all the way to Montgomery. And again, I think that what you're hearing from Mike's Barber stop, it is truly the voice of America. That it is time that we have a very phased, planned approach to getting our economy back.
You're going to take these guys to Montgomery, perhaps? I mean, is that in the
You know, I certainly, if they're willing to, if the governor wants to hear from them, but I got a feeling the governor has heard from quite a few, just like these guys. So, but again, utmost respect for them. I don't see this as defiance, but mainly a cry for help.
One way I feel like we can help these people that are being forced to shut down is by calling the power company, the water company, and say, hey, give everybody a break until we get this situated. Why hasn't that been done yet?
You know, the utility companies are doing that. There's a lot of debt forgiveness. The problem is this: when you live from payday to payday, even though there's debt forgiveness, when you fall 1 or 2 months behind on that, catching up is the difficult part. So we might forgive debt for a short time, but they're not forgiving it completely. And so that's the challenge, is when we do open these doors, how long is it going to take them to recover from the amount of money they've already lost? And so it's a very serious situation. It's one that the governor definitely needs to hear.
Unfortunate that they were lumped into a group that had to shut down and could not continue, and that's just the way the business is.
That's correct. You know, again, direct physical contact with the public. And so how do we convince the governor that we have a good plan to open up to where it protects these guys that work in the industry or similar industries, you know, whether it's nail salons, hair salons, dental hygienists, or dentist offices. I mean, all these people that are in direct contact with the public with essential services. How do we do that and do it in a deliberate way that protects everybody as best we can?
As we leave here, I still want to figure out what is going to happen next. Are these gentlemen going to do the antibody test? Are you? What's the plan of action here, I guess, for the next 24 to 48 or 3 days?
You know, what I've offered them as a test case is to do the antibody testing, followed up by the PCR test if they have a positive antibody, so that we can make sure they're not shedding the virus. And that way we can, when we're ready to open, assure the public that it's safe to come here, and that there's certain protocols in place to make sure the public is protected as well as the employees that are working here.
And this could be the protocol set for other businesses in the state. They could be the person. They could be the business that sets that. They very well could be.
Very well could. And again, there's not just barbershop. There's a lot of services that are in direct physical contact with the public, and we have to be able to convince the governor that we can open up and we can do so safely.
So these guys could do things before, as this process goes on, to prove, hey, when it's ready, look, we can go because we're clear.
That's exactly, you know, consumer confidence. These guys have the right protocols that, you know, we work with the government to make sure that they do, and that they have access to the proper testing, so that, and that's where government can really help. You've always heard about the lack of testing, lack of ability, even the lack of antibody testing. And so we're willing to make sure that that's available so that we can protect the public, do so in a very deliberate fashion.
Chief, on a slightly different note, Justin said that some threats had been made against police officers in his name. Is that now a police investigation against those people that did that?
Well, anybody that makes any kind of threat is investigated, whether it be against the police or anyone else. And so you do have people out there that their emotions are pretty high, I guess.
Yeah.
But we're not going to tolerate threatening behavior, and we certainly don't expect people to behave that way.
Understood.
All right.
Joel, did you want to say anything to add to? Because obviously this is not the outcome you wanted.
I want to say one more thing.
Yes, Chief.
I think a lot of people expect to see some kind of confrontation. I'm going to tell you this. I admire the bravery of these guys. I absolutely do. And so, again, they're the voice of America, and I think we need to listen to them.
Very good.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, Joel, do you have anything to add? Obviously this isn't the outcome you hoped for.
No, it's not. But at this point, I think we come to the conclusion that we're gonna do this for the betterment of the entire shop, because I don't want people to think that I'm backing down because I still believe what I'm doing is right.
Yeah.
But for the sake of my family, my dad, my fellow barbers, this is the only solution that I've been left with. Because at this point, no, we don't know that we're going to open up on May 1st. No, we don't have any kind of guarantee that she's going to even comply with what we're asking of her. But the other option is we disagree, and then unfortunately from there, the police chief's hand is forced. He doesn't want to because he is sympathetic to our cause. But if we go against it, then the civil action turn is criminal. He would have to post a police officer at the door, padlock the door, and it goes from possibly being another week without business to a month and a half. And I know there's a ton of people that have given us support and asking to financially support us, but I'm not going to ask somebody to financially support me for another month and a half because that's how long it would take before I could even get a court date. And I'm not going to put my family through that because it wouldn't just be me. Even though I'm the one that is headstrong and want to go back to work more than anything in the world, I'm not gonna let my dad, who's worked his entire life, lose everything because I'm a hard-headed asshole.
Do you think there's some solace that you could help this whole situation by being?
If us being the test subject for continuing on and possibly being able to reopen the state, absolutely. It's not just me. I want the community to go back to a sense of peace, that we can go back to work without worrying about somebody sneezing. We live in Alabama. Pollen's thick right now. I can't sneeze without somebody flinching. This has got to come to some kind of a solution, and if we are part of it, then I'm okay with that.
You open to save your life, livelihoods. But now,
If we can
like you
help
said,
other
going
people's
forward,
livelihoods, this isn't the course of action I had originally intended, but if it's the one that's the safest and it gets people back to work fast, I'm willing to go whatever route I have to.
So this will, today, right now is your last,
Unfortunately,
few
until
minutes.
we get word back from the governor, we're not going to be accepting anymore. All the appointments and clients that we've accepted for this week, unfortunately, we don't have a choice but to tell you no right now.
Yeah.
We're sorry for that. We definitely do not mean for that to be that's not why we intended. We didn't intend for any of this. We just wanted to go back to work. We didn't want to cause any kind of disruption. But
is there an innovative way that you can get around this? Can you make house calls? Is there any way that you would
I feel like that's counterproductive. I feel
Okay.
like if COVID-19 is such a high-risk virus, then the safest thing for me to do is to be able to practice what I'm good at in a clean, safe work environment that I can control. I set the standard. I'm not going to go to somebody's house to sit and who knows what to be able to cut their hair. And to those barbers who've been doing that's not the solution either. We need to work together to push forward to where we can all go back to work.
Now that was a slap in our face.
that sounds like it.
Yeah. I think that could make you actually even worse. You could be carriers from one place to another.
Exactly.
That would actually be. Yeah.
At least here we set the conditions. We set the standard to where everybody that comes in and sits down at our shop is as safe as they can be. Again, I said earlier, there's not a 100% standard that we go by, but we can do the best that we can with the circumstances given.
Good luck going forward. I'm sorry I came to this, but you know what? Like you said, this can be a test case going forward.
Thank you, Joe.
That'd be really
Thank you
cool.
so much.
Eventually, so, no, you guys handled it.
Thank you, Chief, as well. Thank you.
No, trust me, it wasn't easy.
I told you there was a storm coming.
It was, but it's still there. So it's still in this threat. It's scary, but get it.
You didn't swallow it.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to tell your story as diplomatically as we can to hopefully make things better. And can you let us know? I'm sure James will let us know how this process is. If we have to go to Montgomery with you with these cameras, we'll follow you. We absolutely will.
All right, gentlemen, we appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And I'll let you know when the governor's reaction, because I intend to make sure she understands.
You know, we know.
All right, folks. Well, there's a last look inside this barber shop before it closes. again for who knows how long. The gentleman inside tried to they wanted to stay open. It looked like, well, they had a cease and desist from yesterday, a $500 fine. They said they'll go back tomorrow because they had to, you know, like we all do, we have to pay bills. But within the last hour, the Director of Public Safety here in Mobile has obviously convinced them that the greater good would be to close down until it's safe. And as you heard there from the Director of Public Safety, Barber, you know, he says that, you know, that these guys could possibly be, you know, something like the voice of America is the words he used, and maybe a good test case going forward to how to get businesses opened again in a safe way. So that's the end of this story today. I'm Christopher Harris, and this has been for AL.com. And thank you so much for holding on while we just had images of the barbershop. And we'll keep bringing you as much live coverage as we can of this crisis until it's over. So